In a 1997 interview, Kuniko Ikuhara, the director of Revolutionary Girl Utena, said this about Anthy. As for whether Anthy's character herself is venomous, I don't know the answer, and while I depict her in ways that make you suspect she is, I plan to never show whether that's out of ill will or not. Anthy is a character that is constantly linked to poison. She poisons Kane and implies that she poisoned Utena in the infamous Cantarella scene, which I will get into later. But what does that mean for her character? The first time the viewer sees Anthy with poison is in the 6th episode, Take Care, Miss Nanami. She's arguing with Toga, a duelist on the student council and Nanami's brother, about killing pests in her garden with insecticide. All the viewer has seen her do up to this episode is follow orders, so this is somewhat out of character for Anthy at this point. Even though it's played off as a joke, Anthy's reaction still brings attention to the insecticide. In the mid-early and 20th century, many pesticides were arsenic-based. In episode 37, Anthy asks Utena if she knows what Cantarella is. It's a poison that scholars believed was just arsenic. This ties into the poisoning scene between Utena and Anthy, a scene that has been a point of contention for years.
ねえ、ウテナ様。カンタレラってご存知ですか？
カンタレラ？何それ？
昔、イタリアのボルジア家が使っていた猛毒の名前です。いかがですか？そのクッキー。それ、私が焼いたんです。
偶然だね。その紅茶も毒入りなんだ。
そうですか。とても美味しいですよ、この紅茶。
このクッキーもね。
In this scene, Anthy uses poison to show her affection towards Utena. It's an acknowledgement and apology for poisoning their relationship. She wants to make amends, and by eating the cookie, Utena accepts the apology. Utena, more bluntly, says that she poisoned Anthy's tea. This is her way of apologizing for her jealousy concerning Akio, but Anthy drinks it anyway. Anthy and Utena both remark that their tea and cookie are still delicious. Despite how much they have hurt each other, they both still care about one another. This is reaffirmed when Anthy asks Utena where she will be in 10 years. Anthy is not one to often initiate conversations without malice. The red spinning rose leads me to believe that this is not a question she asked to hurt Utena. Red roses usually signify love or passion. She wants Utena to think about and look forward to her future, so that she will have more of a reason to leave her in Otori. This backfires, of course, since Utena wants Anthy in her future. Anthy knows that Utena will die if she goes to the dueling arena, but she will not leave as long as Anthy stays at Otori. This is why Anthy tries to commit suicide. She's immortal. If thousands of swords piercing into her wouldn't kill her, I don't think that jumping off of a building would. Her real body is in a coffin in the dueling arena. The suicide attempt in episode 38 was to make it seem like Anthy was dead, so that Utena's reason for staying at Otori is gone. In the Cantarella scene, Anthy mentions the Borgia family. As she says, they were an Italian family that would use poison to get their way. They were a high-ranking family, and multiple of them became popes. The poisoning allegations came after their adversaries, like the Venetian cardinal, became sick and died. Lucrezia Borgia was said to be a whore, a poisoner, a murderer, and a witch. This, especially the comment about being a witch, draws parallels to Anthy. Even though it was totally possible that the Borgia family did poison anyone that got in their way, all the symptoms of poisoning by arsenic, weakness, confusion, vomiting, diarrhea, and intestinal pain, were also symptoms of many other illnesses at the time. In his article, Were the Borgias Really So Bad?, Alexander Lee claimed that the suggestion that Lucrezia was a poisoner is more grounded on salacious gossip and the hysterical accusations of a divorced husband than on reliable evidence. Just like Lucrezia, Anthy is accused of doing a lot of things she didn't do throughout the show. She's slapped multiple times by Nanami and her minions for hurting Toga and Sayonji. Not to mention the Shadow Girls play, where she's accused of stealing Dios away from the world. Of course, this isn't a one-to-one comparison. Anthy does help poison Kane and shows no remorse in doing so. While there is a possibility that Lucrezia never killed anyone, Anthy certainly has. This doesn't take away from Anthy's character being misconstrued. In some ways, she is a bad person. She's manipulative and takes pleasure in hurting others. Her jabs after the duels in the student council arc show this.
Anthy!
ごきげんよう、西園寺先輩。 また勉強教えてね。いつか思いが届きますように。
余計なお世話だ。
アンシー、お別れを言ってやれ。
ごきげんよう、店長さん。
Despite all of this, Anthy is also being manipulated herself. She chose to save her brother, Dios, and has been paying for it ever since. She's too scared to leave since Dios and Akio are all she's ever known. She's resigned herself to a life of being the Rose Bride. In the 1945 movie, Pursuit to Algiers, Sherlock Holmes says, "Poison is a woman's weapon." This is because women could easily slip poison into food since they are often the ones preparing it. In the show, Anthy is the one who's always preparing food for Utena. Even though she is stuck in her position as the Rose Bride, who is the pinnacle of femininity, the toxic, vindictive side of her personality can come out when she is in charge of food preparation. This is shown when she brandishes the saw in front of Nanami while making shaved ice.
怖すぎる、こいつ。あら、私。どうもどうも。
In episode 17, Akio compares Utena to Ganymede for being innocent and pure. Ganymede was an ancient Greek figure. The boy was abducted by Zeus for his unparalleled beauty and brought to Olympus. Once he was there, he was offered a position as Zeus's cupbearer in exchange for immortality and eternal youth. Ganymede also served as Zeus's lover, despite his young age. Knowing all of this solidifies Akio's comparison. He moved Utena from the dorms to his observatory. During the finale, Akio calls Utena beautiful, and says that eternity will be ours if she puts down the sword and joins him in the Phantom Castle. In this case, the Phantom Castle is Olympus, and Akio is Zeus. He is the one who abducted Utena and assaulted her. But what is a cupbearer, and why was it so important? According to Wikipedia, it was an officer of high rank in royal courts, whose duty it was to pour and serve the drinks at the royal table. On account of constant fear of plots and intrigues such as poisoning, a person had to be regarded as thoroughly trustworthy to hold the position. When Akio takes Utena to his observatory, he is making her his metaphorical cupbearer. In this case, the poison that he is trying to keep away from himself are the swords of hate. These swords are a physical manifestation of the hatred that society holds towards women. He's terrified of these swords. When Utena tries to open Anthy's coffin, Akio begins to sweat and yells at her to stop. When the sword stops spiraling Anthy, he screams out of fear. This shows Akio's hypocrisy and horrible treatment of Anthy. He's happy to let her take the swords for him, but is terrified of the thought of being stabbed by them. Akio is usually calm and collected. He's manipulative, but when everything is going to plan, he's confident. This is the first time in the series he's been terrified. He can't control the swords, so he recruits Utena to keep Anthy from poisoning him. If Anthy stops willing to be the Rose Bride, he doesn't know what the swords will do or if they will target him, since she takes the swords in place of her prince. So, he turns Utena and Anthy against each other. In a way, he's telling Anthy to direct her malice towards Utena instead of himself. So, going back to Ikuhara's statement, is Anthy venomous out of ill will? I mean, if the director himself didn't know, it's not like I can be an authority on it. But I don't think it's a simple yes or no question. Anthy has been stuck in a coffin for years. It's not clear how long, but it could be decades or centuries since she was first stabbed by the swords of hatred. She's been under Akio's thumb for all that time, helping him to find eternity. She hates the world because the world hates her. She put her own needs above the many by keeping Dios from killing himself for the town and was met with hatred for it. She's become vindictive after years of being treated like a trophy, but she still doesn't leave due to fear. All she's ever known is her life with Dios. Maybe she thinks he's still in Akio somewhere, and if she stays by Akio's side, Dios will eventually come back. What would happen if she left? Would her sacrifice be for nothing? So she stays. She does Akio's bidding and starts to enjoy causing others pain, because what else is there to do in that coffin? Maybe she starts to believe that she is a witch who stole her brother away from all the other princesses. So, yes, she did cause harm to others and sometimes enjoyed it, but I don't think this makes her an irredeemable person. She's a teenager who gave up everything to save her brother and has been paying for it ever since. In the Jewel song, in the last episode, the lyric, "Why do I exist in this world?" plays as Anthy is about to be stabbed by the swords of hatred. She's tired of the hatred, but continues on anyway, for her brother. When asked what he wants audiences to get out of his work, Ikuhara said, "Freedom, I think. You can be free." At the end of the series, Anthy gets the courage to leave Akio and Otori. She was not physically being held there, and Akio barely tries to stop her from leaving. People in abusive relationships can't be forced to leave. You can't save them, the way that Utena was trying to save Anthy throughout the series. They need the strength themselves to leave. Anthy became a shell of herself while she was being controlled by Akio. She let the venomous parts of her personality take over while stuck at Otori. Her love of Utena led to a crack in the wall she built between herself and the world, but ultimately, she was the one who had to take the first step out of Otori and away from her abuser.